The Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights. Focus question. What is the Bill of Rights and why is it important? Introduction. In 1965, an Loa School District punished 5 students who were protesting the Vietnam War, 1955 to 1975, by wearing black armbands to school. The school told the students to leave when they wouldn't take the armbands off. 3 of the students and their parents filed a lawsuit against the district. The case was decided by the Supreme Court in the United States in 1969. The U.S. Supreme Court decided that the students had the right to wear the armbands. The court based its decision on an amendment, a change or correction to the U.S. Constitution. The court said wearing black armbands was a form of speech protected by the First Amendment. The First Amendment is part of the Bill of Rights, a list of the first 10 amendments to the U.S. Constitution that protect the freedoms of citizens. The highest law of the land. The Bill of Rights is part of the U.S. Constitution. The Constitution is the first and highest law of the country. All other laws need to follow the ideas in the Constitution. The United States started as a group of 13 colonies built on lands taken by force from native peoples by Great Britain. The American colonists felt that their rights were being ignored under the rule of the British King George III. In 1775, they started a revolution to win their independence. The colonists who helped create the United States of America were called the founders. During the war with Great Britain, the founders created a weak central government. They didn't want to give their leaders the same powers as a king, so they gave most powers to the states. After the war ended, the founders realized that their system of government wasn't working well. In 1787, 55 men met in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to write rules for a new system. The founders hoped to give the central government, known as the federal government, more power without taking away people's rights and freedoms. They wanted to create a democracy, a form of government where citizens have the power and right to choose their leaders through elections. The founders were inspired by the Haudenosaunee, a group of native nations that formed the government together, while also each keep their own government. The new constitution was finished in September 1787. By mid-1788, all but 2 of the states have approved it. The constitution then became the law of the land. We the people. The U.S. Constitution begins with the words, "We the people," but the rights outlined in the Constitution weren't granted to enslaved people. Native peoples, or most women at the time, later amendments and laws were passed to expand rights to these groups. Adding the Bill of Rights. North Carolina and Rhode Island said they would not agree to the Constitution or join the government unless a Bill of Rights was ended. Some of the founders worried that creating a list of rights might make people think that any rights not on the list were not protected. James Madison, a leading founder, agreed with this position. However, another important founder, Thomas Jefferson, said the Constitution needed a Bill of Rights. He said citizens' rights needed to be spelled out. Madison finally agreed. He wrote a Bill of Rights creating 20 amendments to the Constitution. Congress cut that number down to 12. By the end of 1791, the required 3/4 of the states had agreed to 10 of the 12 amendments. Those 10 amendments became the Bill of Rights. Revolutionary Women. Many women helped to build the United States. Women wrote essays about politics, hosted discussions of political issues, and organized political rallies. One of the most important women was Abigail Adams. She was the wife and close advisor of the founder John Adams. In one letter to her husband, Adams famously told him to remember the ladies, as he was helping to write the new Constitution. What does the Bill of Rights protect? The First Amendment of the Constitution protects 5 important rights. One is the freedom of speech. The First Amendment also gives citizens the right to gather to protest. Another important right the First Amendment protects is the freedom of the press. It says reporters have the right to share news and thoughts with citizens. It protects newspapers and books, and information on the radio, television, and the internet. Many countries around the world have one official religion, but the First Amendment says that the United States can't do that. Americans are free to practice any or no religion as they wish. The Second Amendment gives citizens the right to own and use weapons. Some people think this amendment was meant to apply just to militia groups such as the National Guard. Other people think the amendment gives all U.S. citizens the right to own and use weapons. The Third Amendment prevents the government from forcing people to house soldiers. Before the Revolutionary War, British soldiers had the right to take over private homes. The Fourth Amendment says police officers can't search or arrest someone unless they have a good reason to think that person has done a crime. The police must ask a court to give them permission before then they can search someone's house or a car. Four amendments in the Bill of Rights protect people who have been charged with crimes. The Fifth Amendment says that nobody can be punished for a crime committed against the public or a state without trial. The criminal charge must be proved in court before the person can be punished. The Sixth Amendment says that a trial must be held as soon as possible. The trial must be public, be fair, and take place in front of a jury. The 17th Amendment says that people charged with a civil crime, a crime committed against a person or company, have a right to a trial in front of a jury too. The 8th Amendment says that punishments for crimes can't be cruel and unusual. The final two amendments of the Bill of Rights protect any rights not already spelled out. The 9th Amendment says that naming rights in the Constitution doesn't mean people don't have other rights. The 10th Amendment says that the government only has the power given to be by the Constitution. If a power isn't listed, it belongs to the states or to the people. Beyond the Bill of Rights. More amendments have been added since the Bill of Rights in the last 200 years. Today, the Constitution has 27 amendments. Two of the most important amendments to come after the Bill of Rights are the 13th and 14th Amendments. They were passed and 14th Amendments. They were passed after the Civil War, 1861 to 1865. The 13th Amendment outlawed slavery in the United States. The 14th Amendment made all once enslaved people U.S. citizens. One of the most important rights a person has is the right to vote. However, most people in the United States weren't allowed to vote at first. Most black men couldn't vote until the 15th Amendment passed in 1870. The 19th Amendment, which passed in 1920, gave women the right to vote. Brown v. Board to a Board of Education. The 14th Amendment was the key reason racial segregation of U.S. public schools ended. In the 1940s, Oliver Brown, a black man living in Topeka, Kansas, wanted to enroll his daughter in a nearby school for white students, but the school refused. Instead, his daughter would have to go to a school for black students further from her home. Brown took the issue to court and the case made it all the way to the Supreme Court in 1954. The 9 judges ruled that racial segregation in public schools violated the 14th Amendment because the schools for white children and the schools for black children were not equal. The decision is considered one of the most important rulings in the court's history. The fight for rights continues. The Constitution is now supposed to protect the rights of all Americans, but sometimes people still have to fight for their rights. In 2000, Alondra Jones was an honor student in California. Her high school didn't have enough textbooks or any computers. The buildings were filthy and filled with rats. One day, Alondra visited another high school where the students had books, computers, and clean, safe buildings. Alondra realized her school was receiving a lot less money than other schools in her state. She joined almost 100 other students in a lawsuit that changed the way her state funded its public schools. The court that decided the case that said the state was not giving equal protection to its students as required by the 14th Amendment. In 2008, a teenager named Samantha Elaf applied for a job at a clothing store. The store wouldn't hire her because she wore a hat, covering worn by many Muslim women. They said it broke their dress code. Samantha sued the store. In 2015, the Supreme Court ruled that the store had discriminated against Samantha because of her religion. Conclusion. When the Constitution was written, most people in the country were excluded from its protection. Since then, people have fought to gain and protect the rights promised to U.S. citizens by the Constitution. People continue to strive for equality and protection under